Hey, good morning, Antonio and Brant. I'm going to wait until around 11:05. So this is a new time for today. We used to do these on Thursdays. Now we're doing them on Mondays, and it's at a different time. So it might take a little while for people to get in. I'm also going to put a message out in the Slack channel.
Sounds good. Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning. Okay, thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Um, as we have this new time and new date that we're doing these calls, I'm going to wait until 11:05. I just posted in the Slack channel, so hopefully we'll get a few more people rolling in as we hit that 11:05 time. All right. Well, good morning, everybody. It looks like we got a good group of people in here this morning, so thank you for joining. Today we are starting our new ops call at a new time and a new date. Just for everybody to let everybody know, we've changed to Mondays. Seems like it worked out a little bit better for some people. And this is always recorded, so these will be up and available to watch again. So if somebody wasn't able to make it, you could always go back and watch. So we've begin alternating these calls. So we're doing Monday mornings at 11 a.m. and then next week it'll be Monday afternoon at 3:30 p.m. So that way, if you guys weren't able to make it in the morning call, you'll be able to make it in the afternoon call, hopefully. And again, they'll all be recorded. So wanted to get that out of the way real quick. I have a topic today that is always most of the times in the back of an operator's mind, and that is going to be dealing with customer complaints and claims. This is something that people should be aware of and know how to follow that process pretty much to a T. And we have an operations guide and the way that we do this to keep the liability low on our end. When you come to training, if you're not already open, we go over the compliance and we go over the risk management of any business. So every business has risk management, right? So if it's a roofing company, somebody falls off the roof and gets hurt, that's a risk. Oil changes are, there's a couple different ways somebody can get hurt getting burned on an exhaust manifold. Somebody can get hurt slipping and falling in your shop. And a vehicle can get damaged, right, by the actual service itself. So obviously, this isn't something that should deter you from doing business. There's always going to be risks involved. But that's why we make our judgments and our decisions based off of what our risks are and how we can mitigate those risks. That can be in a couple different forms. So that can be from who you hire as a manager, what type of person they are, how they are going to make those decisions. If you're going to be an absentee or a semi-absentee owner, and if you're not going to be in the shop every single day, you're going to have to put that trust in making those decisions on the manager. Now, obviously, they can always reach out to you and say, hey, this is what I have going on. What do you want me to do? But sometimes there are split-second decisions that need to be made. So we make sure that we have those managers and those people that can make those decisions in our shop. So let's go over a couple different scenarios here, and I'll talk to you about how we deal with them and how we would advise you to deal with them as well. One of the first scenarios is going to be somebody that gets hurt in your store, and there's two separate ways. One is going to be an employee. All of us in your business and your insurance requirements, you are required to have with workers' compensation. Our stores, if somebody gets hurt, first thing that we do is investigate how this happened. So let's say if it was a slip and they fell, the first thing that I'm going to see is if they were wearing slip resistant shoes. If they're not wearing slip resistant shoes in our stores, then the workers' compensation will not cover it because they're not technically not in uniform. All of our uniforms are a black shirt, a Costa Oil branded black shirt, black pants or jeans, and black slip resistant shoes. People like to wear boots that are slip resistant. People like to wear the chef shoes that you can get at Walmart for 20 bucks. It doesn't really matter to me what type of shoes you're wearing as long as that they're slip resistant. Say somebody is working on a vehicle and they go to take an oil filter off and they burn their forearm. One of the first things that I'm looking for is if they were wearing a burn sleeve or not, and if that store has burn sleeves or if they don't. So those are things that you're gonna want to make sure that your store has stocked up. Some guys don't like to wear the burn sleeves because if you get oil in them, it traps the oil, and your arm will get a little bit oily. But at the end of the day, those sleeves are made for you not to get burnt, not to protect you from the oil. The oil, as soon as it hits the burn sleeve, it can be hot, but it's not going to be hot enough to actually burn you, like if you were pressing your arm up against a exhaust manifold or something like that underneath. Another piece of equipment that people can wear is bump caps. So it's a kind of like a hard hat helmet type of deal. You can have those downstairs. So if people working downstairs, they can wear those. So if they, don't duck down far enough or whatever the case may be, they hit their head on the drain pan or on the cross member of a vehicle. That's something that I'm going to be looking for as well. And so is the insurance companies. So that's why we are so that's why we look for that stuff, because we know that if those things aren't being done and we put a workers' compensation claim in, or the employee does, then they, more than likely won't get approved for it because they weren't wearing the proper equipment. We do ask them to go to a workers' compensation approved urgent care or hospital, and your insurance company will tell you which ones are approved near you based on your site and where you're located. And they will handle everything going forward from there. Most of the times you'll get a call from the company, the insurance company, asking about the situation and what we know about it. If they were wearing the proper, equipment, that type of stuff, if we have any videos of it, so on and so forth. Some insurance companies will require a drug test for their employees. So just to be aware of that as well. I know that a lot of states now are legalizing marijuana for recreational and medical. And it depends on which state you're in on how they handle that. If it's recreational, it's different than if it's medical. So if somebody has a medical prescription for it, it can be deemed different than just being recreational. But that's more so on the legal side of things and the insurance side of things. So you'll have to get with each carrier on what they approve and what they don't approve. So the second thing that we want to go over is customers getting hurt. Now, most of our stores, if not all of our stores, I think there's only one corporate store that we have where there's actually a waiting room that the customer gets out and can go into it. But the only reason that it's that way is because that store has been doing that for 30 years and the customer base just did not like staying in their vehicle as much as we've tried. So most of your stores, if it's going to be a conversion or a kiosk, there won't be a waiting room. And if there is a waiting room, we'll advise you guys not to use it. If you're going to use it, then just use it as an employee break room or whatever the case may be, or an office if that's something that you want. But our kiosk will not have those. So we will try to keep the customer in the vehicle at all times. If they end up getting out to one, like use the restroom or something like that, we have signage, that says caution, slippery surfaces, or caution, open floor, or please stay in your vehicle. Obviously, we have a bunch of the signs that say please stay in your vehicle, and that limits our liability on what happens if they get out of the vehicle. Some of our stores do have the non-slip grip tape on the floors, so that's something that you can put down. Service Champ does sell them by like 80 feet rolls or something like that, and you can put down grip tape if you'd like to. And that can just help your employees as well. But it's something that we want to make sure that we can try to mitigate that risk that we have with the customers getting out of the vehicle. Now, if the customer does get out of the vehicle and they do slip and they do fall and they do get injured, obviously give them the emergency support that they need. If they've fallen and they hit their head, then we're going to want to make sure that they get an ambulance if they need one, if they request one. We always ask, do you want us to get you medical attention? Now, if they're, fall and crack their head and they're bleeding, then yeah, call. But some people just don't want that. They don't want to go to the hospital for whatever reason. So we always ask and make sure that it's noted that we did ask and what time we did. If you have cameras, make sure that that's documented in there as well, and you save the videos. All of our corporate stores have cameras. We have a central computer here at headquarters. I actually have one in my office right next to me that I can always go in and look at my stores and see what's going on. So if they ever have an issue, I can always pull it up on the camera and save it really quickly. And I would advise everybody to have some type of camera system in their shop just to help you with a multitude of things: customer reports, customer complaints, employees, sleeping on the clock, or maybe they're smoking out front or whatever the case may be. But it's always going to be able to help you kind of keep an eye on your store. So we'll offer medical services to them, call 911, call whoever we need to. We will let our insurance company know what happened, document that, and we'll go from there. The last thing that really we see, and it's not regular, I think we've only seen this twice in 2022. We haven't seen it at all yet in 2023, which is good, but it's damaging a vehicle, and that could be over tightening a drain plug or not tightening the oil filter enough and the oil filter falls off, and things like that, do happen. Mistakes do happen. It's all about the training and making sure your techs and your manager know what to look for. That's why we have our step-by-step guide, and our call-out system is to mitigate that as much as we can to lessen the risk that we have on damaging somebody's vehicle. Big one is going to be a loose drain plug or an oil filter that's not tight and it's leaking. That's why we do our checks at the end before the vehicle leaves. However, sometimes it does get missed. First thing that we do on our receipt, if you guys have ever seen one of our receipts, we have a clause at the bottom of the receipt that clearly states if there's any issue with your oil change or with your vehicle after the service, please bring the vehicle back to us before going to a third party. If you take it to a third party first, we are not held liable for any damages or anything that happened. That indemnification protects us because we've seen it before where somebody will come in and get an oil change. Maybe their motor has, 300,000 miles on it, so on and so forth. We're a smaller company than Jiffy Lube and Valvoline, so, people think that maybe they can get away with it. During the pandemic, there was a huge spike in fraud with vehicles. We haven't seen it so much since COVID has kind of gone down, but during the pandemic, it was really prevalent. So what we will do is we will have them bring the vehicle back to us, and we'll look it back over. If there was something that we did wrong, we didn't tighten the drain plug. Most of the time, you can just tighten the drain plug, add the oil, clean it up, run your test, and you're fine. Same thing with an oil filter. Maybe the oil filter got double gasketed or wasn't put on right. Or maybe they meant to grab a 4622 and they grabbed a 4477 because they're right next to each other. We will look it over, see what happened, and we can fix it on our end. The reason that we do this, one, is to make sure that we can put our eyes on it and see what happened, and we can make sure that we take care of it in-house. But two, dealerships and third-party people think that because we're a company, we're just going to pay whatever they say. So if you come in and they say, oh, you were 2 quarts low because your filter was, whatever the case may be, was not tightened or whatever, they can go in and say, oh, you're going to need a new pickup tube, you're going to need a new this, you're going to need a new oil pan or an oil pan gasket. At the end of the day, you're going to get an invoice from this third party saying that you owe them $4,000 when realistically you could have just tightened the filter back up and added 2 quarts of oil. And they think because we are a company, we're just going to rubber stamp everything and approve it all. So a lot of third party companies, and from what we've seen, and I've, almost 15 years dealing with this quick lube business, I've seen it a lot where those third party people will try to just up the labor, up the cost of the price of the equipment because we are a company and it's not just somebody that's gonna or we're not just a regular customer getting work done. So that's something to look for. But we try to take care of it in-house. Now, if something does happen, say you did make a mistake, we do have to have it go to a third-party mechanic. And we have to have their like an invoice from them claiming, what the issue was. Have you ever thought about adding a camera to the pit to help mitigating risks? Could also be good for backup while cars in the bay while you have few newer employees. Yeah, I mean, so there are some shops. We don't have any shops, but I know that like Ali in Bedford, Texas, he has cameras down in the pits. They put them on the back side of the pit. in the actual pit itself. So that's a good idea. Yeah, you can definitely do that as well. Wherever you want to put them, I would always say to make sure that you have your entire bay area covered. Usually the stairs leading down to the pits, and if you want to put cameras in every single pit too, you can do that as well. No, that's a good idea. Thank you. So if something does happen, say that we do mess up, we put the wrong filter on and the filter blows off and the customer doesn't know it and they drive 3-4 miles and the engine locks up and blows up. That's why we have insurance, right? So you'll put a claim into your insurance department or insurance company. You'll get the receipt at the time of service that they got done. You'll give them the customer's information and you'll give them the shop's information that's going to do the repair. Once you do all of that, it's pretty much out of your hands at that point. You've done your due diligence, you've claimed it on your insurance, you've pushed it forward to where you need it to be, and they take care of the rest. The only thing that you do is going to pay your deposit to or your deductible to your insurance company. But this is just something that I wanted to talk about because I feel like as far as risks go, everybody has that in the back of their mind, right? What if I ruin this car? What if I ruin this? What if I do that? It does happen. It's something that, I want you guys to know that it does happen. But we do have a plan on and checks in place to make sure that we can kind of eliminate as much of it as possible. That's why we have our callback system. That's why we have all of our checks. That's why we have, the indemnification on the receipt, so on and so forth. So that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today and how we deal with that type of stuff. Having cameras, making sure that your guys are wearing their proper gear, making sure that you're following your workers' comp policy, making sure that you have good insurance, which we require anyway, and we check it before your grand opening anyway, but just something to think about. And if it does happen, we're obviously here to support you. We can answer any questions that you might have. But most of the time, you just follow up for your insurance. Now, if somebody comes in with a vehicle that's already messed up, like, say that they have a rounded off drain plug or they already have a oil pan gasket leaking, we're going to note that on the receipt. We're going to say, hey, just wanted to let you know you have a significant leak on your oil pan gasket. We'll still do your oil change, but we're going to put it on the receipt that this oil pan gasket was, damaged prior to service. And then we have them, either sign the receipt or they have a copy of it that shows that their oil pan gasket was messed up prior to service, or that their drain plug was leaking prior to service, or whatever the case may be, whatever was wrong with the vehicle, that they could come back to us and say, well, you guys didn't put it on the receipt. How do I know that this was messed up prior? We will tell them before we do the service. That's why the lower bay tech, when he's doing his inspections before he drops that plug, he should be telling you, hey, we have an oil pan gasket on bay 1 prior to service. Cool. So that upper bay tech is going to go to the customer and say, hi, ma'am, I just wanted to let you know that you do have a significant leak underneath your vehicle. We can do your oil change, but it looks like you're leaking a bit of oil, and we wanted to just make sure that you're aware of that. You need to get that fixed or looked at by a mechanic, as quickly as you can to make sure that you don't have damage to your vehicle, to your motor. And we'll put that on the receipt and we'll give that to them. And that just adds more credibility to us. Hey, this vehicle came in, it already had issues. We did perform the oil change, but that issue did not come from us. If you do not mark your, if you do not put on your receipt what was wrong prior to service, that leaves you liable if they come back. That's another kind of fail-safe that we have. So if there is something wrong with the vehicle and we don't mark it on the receipt and they leave, and let's say that oil pan gasket just obliterates itself, within the next week, and then they say, all the oil leaks out or whatever the case may be, but you didn't put it on the receipt, then they're going to look back at you and say, hey, I just got an oil change and now all my oil is leaking out. Even though it's coming from the oil pan, how do I know you guys didn't mess with something, so on and so forth. So there's other ways that we can protect ourselves and limit the risk that we're exposed to throughout the operations of the shop. So we got about 7 minutes left. I'm going to open it up now for some questions. Anybody have any questions for me this week? Okay, all right, nobody, going once, going twice. Brian, thank you for the camera situation. Yeah, you can put cameras down in your pits. That's always a great idea. Most of the times I would say that you put them at the back of your pit, so it's looking at the tech and the service. If you put a camera in the front, it could just mitigate or it could just mess up. One, it could get messed up by the oil coming down from the vehicle that splashes on it all the time. Two, it might get in the way of the tech because sometimes they have to reach up over that front bar there. So if you have a camera facing there, that might be an issue. So I would put it at the back, looking forward towards the front of the vehicle. But yeah, that's a good idea. All right. Don't forget, everybody, this is all recorded, so you can always look back at these later. Thank you for joining me this morning. If nobody has any questions, I'm going to end it here. I will say just again, please remember, so we have reoccurring meetings every Monday now. This week is 11 a.m. Next week will be 3:30 p.m. So it'll be in the afternoon next week. And then the week after that, it will be 11 a.m. again, and so on and so forth. So it will be mornings and then evenings, mornings and evenings. We have 25 of these, and then we'll just keep them going. As you know, we'll redo it in 25 weeks. But for right now, this is where we're going to stand. So please feel free to reach out to us on Slack. If you're not on Slack, please get on Slack. If you haven't been given an invite yet, we will send one out to you. I'll have your coordinator send one out to you. Where are the videos located for this meeting? So if you go to oilu.org and then you go to guides and then you scroll all the way down to the bottom, you will see where it says operations call videos. Yep, no worries. All right, everybody, I hope you have a great week. I actually like that we're going to Mondays because that kind of starts the week out with some things to think about. And then by the next Monday, you can hopefully use some of the information that we've given you on Mondays. And then you can also gear up for the week and then ask your questions the Monday after. So everybody have a great rest of your week. If you need anything, please reach to us on Slack and we'll talk to you later.